Chapter 22. Risk. The days had been rather quiet recently. Naruto didn't really like being on the island he was currently living on, but he had no choice in the matter at the moment. Gathering data on all of the animals that resided there was a challenge and kind of a nuisance. The whiskered boy always thought that his talents could be put to more use than they were currently. It didn't really help that he had a sinking feeling in his stomach these days. He couldn't really understand what that was about, though. Unknown to him, there was a war that was starting right underneath his nose. That feeling that he was feeling was a genuine thing, but none of the other ninjas on the island were willing to share that information with Naruto. They couldn't let him know, because it would be detrimental to their plan. They needed to keep both of the Jinchuriki on the ancient Turtle Island. The end result could be disastrous if the Jinchuriki were captured early. Being bored from counting animals wasn't the only thing that was on the fox container's mind. There was a certain woman that seemed to echo over and over in his head. It was strange. Naruto couldn't understand it, but he was feeling a lot more interested in the paper angel that sat across from him at another tree. His mother's words reverberated from the time they talked together and what she said about Conan. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't just some error. His mother genuinely said that the relationship between Conan and him can be entirely acceptable. He didn't know why, but there was a weight that was lifted when his mother said that. I couldn't stop you, even if I wanted to. Naruto blushed slightly at this revelation. His mother was okay with such a strange relationship. Wait, what am I thinking? He said, pinching his cheek. Am I really going with this? Is this really okay? Have I gone crazy? So many thoughts rushed to the boy's head. He couldn't grasp the idea of Conan and him being together. It was so foreign. But then, it felt so right. Naruto would think of the times where they both confided in each other. Those soothing times where they held each other. The times where she openly smiled towards him. Not just a fake smile, but a real one. He never thought she could smile that way. He looked over to Conan, who was idly folding an origami shape with her hands. He found that strange because normally, whenever she did origami, it was from her jutsu, and it formed automatically without much effort. It was interesting seeing her delicately folding the sheet in an intricate design. He looked at her hands and saw how softly they held the paper. He glanced up and noticed her amber eyes silently reflecting on her choices of folding. He saw how her mouth pursed in thought and how the hue of her lips was inviting. Blushing, his thoughts wandered to how she kissed him back in the tent. How forward she was in planting her lips upon his. His hands slowly touched his mouth again, trying to remember that faint memory of that time, but it was a little difficult to grasp. Then a thought swung at his chest and hit him hard. Am I in love with Conan? At first, the thought held no weight, but when he thought about it thoroughly, he could honestly see it being possible. She was the only one around when he was going through his problems. He was the only one around when she started showing her full self to him. Her personality was blooming, and he enjoyed every bit of it. He remembered Sakura and his feeble attempts to woo her, but he noticed that there was something different with Conan. There was something stronger. There was something that he couldn't put into words, but he felt it in his heart. A strong pull was tugging him towards her. His eyes flew to his hands, and they darted back up to Conan's paper flower. She was still wearing it. That meant she liked it. She liked something that he created for her. She took care of it. That meant something made by Naruto was something that she cherished. Could she be feeling the same way? Naruto realized it. It all became clear to him now. He was infatuated with her, and he couldn't help but think about how to say it. That was when he lifted himself from the ground. Conan played with her origami while she sat in silence. Naruto hadn't said anything to her since she finished that interaction between Kisame and her. What was strange to her was the fact that he sat across from her, perched against a tree. He would always look at her with a strange look, and she couldn't help but think that something was bothering him about her. She didn't really know what, but she didn't want to bring it up if he wasn't going to say anything. If he had anything to say at the time, he would come to her. It had been a while since she worked on origami with her hands, but it seemed to relax her pretty well. It would bring her to her past, when she would make origami with her father. She always felt a fascination with creating something as simple as a folded paper, but turning it into something beautiful and long-lasting. Hey, Conan-chan. Conan was startled out of her ruminations as she looked up at the person calling her name. It was quiet minus the sound of the waterfall that splashed away from a distance in the leaves that rustled against the branches. Naruto's face remained neutral, although she noticed something off about it. She dusted off her pants and stood up with a concerned stare. Yes? What is it? Naruto's eyes glanced over to the side as he rubbed his neck. The more he sat and waited, the more he felt uncomfortable about talking about it. Conan saw the loss of eye contact and became somewhat worried. If there's anything you want to talk about, you know that you shouldn't worry about whatever it is. I'm available to talk. I'm always here for you. She smiled slightly, while trying to gauge his reaction. She noticed that he seemed to shrink even further when she said that, and Conan couldn't help but be worried about her friend. She gingerly laid a hand upon his shoulder, while looking directly into his eyes. Hey, tell me. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? After a few moments, Naruto looked back at her. His inner turmoil was evident upon his face. Her eyes never leaving him, he breaks the silence. I think I like you. Everything stood still. The leaves took a rest and the noise of the waterfall seemed to fade away. The words ripped through the air like a saw. The air around them seemed to heat a few degrees and Conan could only widen her eyes. Her hand that rested on Naruto's shoulder slowly fell to her side. Did Naruto just say? Her thoughts jumbled. There were so many things rumbling through her mind, but she couldn't put the focus on one thing. She just received a confession from Naruto. The look that she saw on his face told her so many different things, but she could see the genuine truth in his blue eyes. She saw the light blush against his cheeks, and she could only stand there flabbergasted. Conan was reminded of the time she fought her evil half. She knew deep down that there was something telling her that she held something for the boy that was unacceptable. She can't. She felt sadness and regretted the thought of Naruto doing this. Not only for him, but for herself. This wasn't something that should be done. It went against everything that she knew. She was older than him, a past enemy, and this relationship wasn't something that should be taken lightly. Naruto-kun, I know, Naruto replied softly, it's not normal. I know this is all strange and confusing, but, his head lowered as his gaze fell to the ground, I've realized that I've been feeling something for you for a while. I only realized it today, that there was something more to this weird feeling. Conan's eyes lowered in remorse as he spoke calmly, you were always there for me, Conan-chan. Even through all of the things that I put you through in Konoha, you remained. I've never had anyone like you before. His hands dug into his pockets and kicked a foot against the dirt. I guess he never finished his sentence as he looked back at Conan awaiting her answer. Conan always had an underlying feeling that something like this would happen, but she didn't want it to. It didn't seem possible. She just assumed that they would be friends and she would help him when she needed to. She didn't want to think that Naruto would actually be willing to start a real relationship with her. Her heart hurt at the mention of that. She couldn't do it. I can't, Naruto. Huh? Naruto replied with uncertainty, you can't? Conan looked shamefully to her right, yes. I can't do that, Naruto. It's wrong. Naruto's eyebrows scrunched up in confusion as he stared at her. Wrong? Naruto-kun, she started back up, it can't happen between us. I'm sorry. It's just, Conan said while pacing a few steps towards the waterfall, our relationship is purely a friendship. Nothing more. It's not supposed to go any further than that. Who said? Naruto asked irritated, is someone keeping you from getting close to me? Let me know, and I will talk to them. That's not it, Conan retorted with a slight grit of her teeth, it's something else. Just, so, are all of the things we did together not real? Do friends kiss other friends like that? Naruto asked angrily. I told you already, that was an accident. Bullshit. Naruto gritted his teeth, while gazing at her back. She wasn't looking at him, and that bothered him. The things she was saying were getting to him. It seemed to him like she was just trying to avoid it, but what was she trying to hide? Was there really someone keeping her from getting too close to him? Naruto, we are just too different. It's just not possible for us to work. So, was everything a lie then? Naruto asked aggravated. No, it's not. A lot of things we did together were genuine, Conan responded in annoyance, those things. A sigh escaped her lips, while she closed her eyes. It was all honestly becoming too much for her. She never expected it to go this far, but even with this, she had to stop somewhere. Naruto. Her sentence was cut short as Naruto grabbed her and planted his lips upon hers in a sudden kiss. Her eyes widened as she noticed the boy was pushing his face against hers. Her thoughts rushed in a sudden frenzy, and the shock was enough to stop her suddenly. But as fast as it came, Conan's rationality took over. A hand planted hard against Naruto's right cheek as he sat there quietly reeling from the surprise palm against his face. He held his hand up to the painful cheek, but didn't say a word. Conan glared lividly at Naruto as she spoke, first, don't ever do that again. Secondly, your feelings for me are nothing more than something for you to latch onto, because Sakura-san died. Naruto saw her look away from his direction, after she said that, although Naruto didn't really know why. I'm sorry. I guess you're right. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into things. I'm an idiot. You're not an idiot, Conan retorted after calming down, you're just confused. I can understand that, so I won't hold it against you. After some thought, Naruto smiled a little, yeah, I guess you're right. Thanks for forgiving me. If Sakura-chan was here, she would have beat me to a bloody pulp if I did that to her. Well, it's a good thing that I'm not her then, isn't it? She replied while walking away, leaving Naruto to his thoughts. Naruto chuckled softly in defeat while looking at the ground. The leaves on the ground moving softly against the breeze. I guess you're not. Later. Naruto had been training for a while now on his Bijuu abilities. B was thorough in teaching him the ropes of controlling external Bijuu chakra to his will. To be honest, Naruto was tired of sitting on the island. He really wanted to get a move on. There was nothing else for him to do, and it didn't help that he kept feeling a nine-tails chakra that was somewhere other than where he was currently. He couldn't place his finger on an exact location, but he still couldn't let it rest. B, something has been bothering me, Naruto replied after taking a break from his Bijuu mode. What is it? Well, I sensed nine-tails chakra somewhere else. I mean, I'm the only one who has nine-tails chakra, right? B smiled. Of course, my man. You're the only one who has the chakra. Nothing else can. Naruto thought quietly about what B said before he closed his eyes and sighed. Where's the restroom? It's right outside. The first door to the left. Thanks, Naruto said as he ran out of the door a lot more quickly than normal. He either really had to go that badly, or he was trying to escape. B's Bijuu, the eight tails, was really persistent against letting Naruto leave, but B only shook it off. B knew that Naruto wanted to leave, and he could sense it within Naruto that the boy had something he needed to do. That was the strange thing about Jinchuriki. They seemed to know what's going on with the other. B only smiled and started stepping toward the exit. As Naruto totally ran straight through the corridor and past the bathroom that he supposedly wanted to use, two ninjas that was precariously placed above on top of a doorway relayed the information that Naruto was leaving. Thus began a series of preventative measures to keep the Jinchuriki in place. Halt, Naruto. The boy stopped in his tracks as he was met with several ninjas of Konoha. There were two bigger and taller men that stood in the back but wore an Akamichi crest on their vests. Seeing this many people in front of him set off many alarms in his head. I knew something was going on. Naruto, I must apologize, but I cannot let you pass. You should go back to the Bijuu room and train, a man with dark glasses and hooded jacket said to him. What is Shino's dad doing here? What are you all doing here? Why is everyone watching me? Go back inside, the Abiram said. We can talk about it in there. Naruto's brow arched in annoyance. I can hear it out here. Just tell me now. Gen-san, let me talk to him. A man replied as he walked through the group. It was none other than Iruka Yamino as he stared at Naruto with a conviction. Iruka-sensei, what are you doing here? Naruto asked. Confusion was etched upon his face at seeing his previous teacher standing in front of him. Things weren't adding up. As it turns out, Iruka started with a confident smile. You have a second mission, and this mission involves a new species on this island. It's been determined that you should have backup in case something goes awry. We're here to help you. Naruto touched his stomach. I felt nine-tails chakra. Does it have something to do with that? The others stood by quietly and guarded as Iruka continued to speak. Yes, if you go outside and the nine-tails chakra inside you gets noticed by the new animal, it will be over for you. Is that why Captain Yamato hasn't come back yet? Naruto asked. He knew something was strange about Yamato taking too long. He had disappeared a while ago and hadn't been back. He didn't know what was going on, but he very well knew that something was brushing him the wrong way. That's right, Naruto. You know better than us that nine-tails chakra can be contained by Mokutin. Naruto thought silently about everything Iruka was saying to him. The story seemed solid, but it was still so strange. Naruto thought it over momentarily to try and get his mind in order. Then he thought about something that was said before. His mind raced as a thought struck his mind like a blow to the head. He remembered that B had controlled all of the monsters on the island, and that B was the top dog. There was no other on that island that couldn't be controlled by him. If Naruto knew anything, then he would know that he could just as easily do the same thing. B taught him many things about the animals on the island and how he could communicate with them, just as he could with the nine tails. That is when he met his resolve. His eyes mutated into an orange hue with rectangular pupils. Everyone immediately took a stance as Naruto pushed through the defenses. His narrow sight was to get past them through the waterfall. He sensed as others tried to capture him, but he avoided them easily by sensing their trajectory. Naruto pushed through and burst through the waterfall with relative ease. Everyone was surprised, and the few he pushed through landed several yards away from him. Naruto was about to take another step, but he was immediately caught by a shadow possession. Unfortunately, the shadow possession wasn't enough to stop his sage mode, as visions of the current war filled his mind. His thoughts were immediately bombarded, and he couldn't exactly think clearly or get a good image of what was really going on. He could feel many of the other ninja that he knew, and many others that he didn't, and everyone seemed to be fighting something. What's going on? Iruka's features hardened as he watched Naruto reel from shock. He must have sensed everyone with his Sage Mode abilities. Everyone's fighting the war. Madara's war. Naruto looked around at everyone else that was preparing to stop him at any cost. Why is everyone getting hurt out there? What are you hiding? The truth is, Naruto, Iruka said with a stern look, with this war, we are going to protect you. Naruto continued to look on in shock. They're going to protect him? From his perspective, it's the other way around. He gazed around at the other ninja and saw the look of determination written upon their faces. His eyes met with Iruka's once again, but he could see that same determination within his teacher's eyes. Like his teacher would be losing something important if Naruto left. You see, Madara launched an assault on the world. He's determined to capture you and Killer Bee, and extract the Biju from you both. Iruka looked over and saw his comrades looking at him a little angrily for spilling the beans on the plan, but he knew that he couldn't hide it from Naruto any longer. If Madara captures the both of you, then this world will surely end, and everything would be over. Naruto looked downcast as he took in all of this information, but Iruka continued, we're fighting to keep you safe, Naruto. You need to control your urge, and let us handle this fight. It was then that Naruto noticed Konan walking out towards him as he stood there. His eyes widened momentarily before his sight fell to the ground in sadness. Even you too, huh? Naruto still felt the sting from when Konan rejected him, and it hurt him even more seeing her side with the others that were so intent on keeping him on the island. Konan observed Naruto and stayed silent. The looks of the others were wary, but they knew that she was the last resort. Naruto had been closest to the woman more than anyone else that they've seen so far, and they felt like, if anyone could do anything, it could be her. Naruto-kun, everyone here is fighting for you. I'm even fighting for you. That's why we're all here to protect you, because we don't want to lose you. You're very important to everyone here. Naruto looked around and saw the looks on their faces again. Some of them nodded their heads in agreement with what Konan was saying. Others were looking down in grief at the current situation. They seemed panicked almost like they were desperate to do anything they could to stay alive. I thought you wanted to help me? I thought you wanted to be the support to help me end this? Konan looked downtrodden as Naruto uttered those words to her. She could only remember when Yamato and the others came to her. Flashback. It was a quiet night on the island. Konan had just ended her discussion with Naruto about his sudden interest in her. She ended up rejecting him, but it was for the better. Naruto was a nice boy, but she couldn't have that type of relationship with him. It was just wrong. Even so, she still couldn't help but feel the thumping heartbeat that she was still feeling from the sudden confession and kiss. Damn it, Konan said, as she clenched her teeth and leaned her hand against the tree to try and balance her thoughts. It wasn't my intention to be that mean towards him, but I honestly felt like he wouldn't understand my stance. Naruto, I'm sorry, but you deserve someone better than I am. I'm not worth it. I'm just an old lady who can't jump into that type of relationship. It's too much. She recalled the battle with her inner self, and how her inner self told her that she was falling in love with the boy. Just the thought in itself held tremendous weight. How could she do something like that? She would be ruining the boy's chances of finding someone better than her, and she'd just be in the way. He'd definitely get bored of her, and he'd find someone else to be with that was younger. That's how it always goes. There's no way anything like that can happen. Even though she loathed to admit it, her darker half told the truth. She might be falling in love with Naruto. I'd like to have a word with you, a man said in front of her. Her eyes lifted and noticed that it was none other than Yamato who seemed stern. Konan stood up straight as she gazed at the man thoughtfully and repressed her frustrations. What do I owe this isolated visit? Konan, we need your help in containing Naruto on the island, Yamato said while looking her straight in the eye. The war has already started, and Madara wants to capture the last two Biju, but we've isolated them both on this turtle island to camouflage our whereabouts. Konan's eyes widened slightly at the sudden request, but she breathed a sigh. I had a feeling that this was your intention from the beginning. Yes, this was all staged from the very beginning. We couldn't risk Naruto and Killer Bee running rampant trying to save everyone, while everyone else is trying to save them. Konan thought about everything that Yamato was saying, but she didn't really like the idea. Naruto was a bridge to peace, and he was a pivotal role in the ending of the entire fight. I don't believe that I should do what you ask. Naruto knows just what he is capable of. He is no fool. But it's his arrogance that would cause him a failure. No matter what, his determination would ultimately get him killed. We can't risk that kind of thing, Yamato said to her grimly. We must keep him on the island and wait for a better moment to let him go. For now, it's just too early, and everyone else on the battlefield is doing everything they can to make sure we don't even need Naruto or Bee. Konan sighed tiredly, before she started to walk away. This was just something that she really didn't need to deal with right now. Would you really let Naruto die out there by the hands of Madara? Are you that cold-hearted? Conan flinched when he called her cold. Her eyebrows lowered in irritation. I trust Naruto-kun. I trust his strength. I'm not afraid of what may befall of us, because I believe that Naruto can accomplish anything that he sets his mind on. Conan looked the man in the eye. I believe that Naruto can truly save the world. Maybe it's you that is colder than I? You can't even put trust in your own comrade. With nothing more to say, she started walking away again towards a different wooded area. Yamato only sighed as he rubbed his neck in annoyance. Apparently, it wasn't easy to persuade her after all. End flashback. Naruto, what do you truly believe? Conan asked him, genuinely curious about his answer. She wanted to hear it from his mouth. She had to. Yamato got inside of her head in the comments he made before about Naruto, that she felt like she should protect him. She didn't want to lose him, regardless, whether her feelings for him were of love or not. She cared for him, and thinking about him leaving, and possibly dying gave her second thoughts. But she wanted to know his real thoughts, and gave him an opportunity. She wanted him to sway her. She wanted to be reminded that her actions weren't in vain, that her life wasn't meaningless. Naruto thought hard over everything that Izuruka-sensei said. He looked up to Conan and looked into her eyes. He saw his stare was met with concern and possibly fear. He gazed down at his hands and recalled the time when he fought Nagato. The words that the man spoke to him rang through his head like a cacophony. Wasteful death. Eternal hatred. And pain that does not heal. That is what war is, and that is what you'll face in the future, Naruto. But I believe that you, of all people, can. With his will and strength, he looked up to Conan with resolute eyes. I can stop this. I will face eternal hatred, and I will face the pain that does not heal. That is my role in this world. Conan looked into his eyes for any sign of uncertainty. The doubt that she had before was washed away, and she could only smile at him. I believe you, Naruto, and thank you. Those were her last words, before she created a diversion by blowing thousands of sheets of paper towards the Nara shadow user, knocking the shadow possession loose from Naruto and freeing him. Everyone around was stunned by the sudden paper barrage. The paper then switched and filled the entire area at amazing speed. They were spinning around the area so quickly and compact that it became too difficult to see anything. Naruto and Conan made use of the diversion and left the vicinity post-haste. Iruka only sighed as he watched defensively between his arms, Conan and Naruto running away out of sight. I knew they would do that. Just don't eye on me, Naruto. The other ninja immediately contacted the barrier patrol and dashed in the same direction as Naruto and Conan. Pretty soon, the Jinchuriki would be free, and the enemy would be one step closer to completing his Tsuki no Mi plan. They needed to stop him at all costs.
End of chapter 22.